Microphone. This must be better. Is it better now?
It was, and then it went quieter again.
One, two, three.
Yeah, that's quiet, but a minute ago it was a little bit louder.
Okay, like this?
That's good.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So I have to say, I've got to start off by saying this. I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone in a mask before. I have interviewed Slipknot, but they didn't have the masks on at the time, so this is a first for me.
Interesting.
What?
It's an honor.
Yeah, no, it's like I say, a first. With you, I don't know how to start this. I'm really pleased to be speaking to you. I'm really interested in your music. I think
Thank
that
you. Likewise.
your music sounds like how I feel about the world right now, if that makes sense. Like
That's quite a
it's
compliment. Thank you.
it's confusing and it's frightening and it's uptight, and I think that's how I feel about the world. But before I get to the music, what I wanted to ask was that you wear a mask, and your PR said that that's because of this protest that you took place in that you took part in Russia, and then you had to leave Russia. And I understand enough about geopolitics to understand why you would want to be quote unquote anonymous. But I wondered if there was something about your dissociative diagnosis about this as well. I wondered if it was something about identity.
Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, there's two reasons for me to be wearing a mask. When I started with this project and started off anonymously, I didn't even think about, I couldn't even imagine that that's where my life would go. So I started this project in October 2021, and the war broke out in February 2022. And the fact that I'm wearing a mask came in very handy because I couldn't be quiet about my anti-war stance. And as you might know, it's punishable in Russia. Um, and so at the same time, when I started, the reason for me wearing a mask was pretty simple, although it's not. I have dissociative identity disorder, which means that I have multiple personalities within my brain, within my mind. And my other self is a quite well-known investment banker, quite successful and like pretty high up the career ladder. But when I took over control in this body, I immediately protested against that and said that I'm not gonna live her life. I want to live my life. And I started my music career. But one thing that is pretty certain is that she doesn't want me to be doing this. We have lots of issues and falling out with each other on this topic. And one thing that I did agree to do is that I'm going to keep it as as confidential as possible, meaning that as anonymous as possible, meaning that I won't be um, telling the world who I am. Luckily, there is quite a lot of difference between us, and it's not so easy to recognize me, even though you can see my face. But we can talk about it later during this conversation. But like it's been proven scientifically that a lot of people who have dissociative identity disorder, they tend to have physical differences. So that's the case with us. But still, I need to make sure to keep my identity safe and not disclosed to the public.
Okay, so there's lots to unpack there.
Yeah.
I should clear my throat and say that I do know quite a lot about mental health and mental illness because I have OCD. So, and I found that very difficult in my life, and so I do know a fair bit. And there was a period of time where I was flirting with a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, which I don't really accept. I think that what I have is OCD, and that that explains maybe why some people would think it was BPD. So I know a little bit. Well, no, I know quite a lot about my experiences with those conditions, but I don't. And I'm going to refer to your condition as did from this point on because I mumble sometimes, and I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to say dissociative
Dissociative
frequently
identity.
without
DID, for
DID.
short.
I'll go
Yeah,
with that.
DID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Rather than fumble it and embarrass us both. The thing I know principally about that condition is that have you ever read a comic called Doom Patrol?
Wow, that's new.
Oh,
I've done so many interviews, and everyone asks about Split, but not Doom Patrol. No, I haven't.
well, interestingly, so when I watched Split, I saw that movie, and I remember coming away from the cinema quite angry about it, and I remember thinking, I don't have, you know, I can barely relate to the idea of this, but I can't see how that is in any way helpful or accurate. That's what I thought, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the reason I say Doom Patrol is that there's a character in, like, it's a really interesting comic. It's a sort of quite an obscure DC comic that was rebooted by Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance.
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, and there's a
Okay.
character in it. It's just, the idea is they're almost like, like superheroes. They're almost, they're celebrated for their special powers. But this is almost like Doom Patrol, similar, but they're like people who you would maybe view their powers as disabilities, but actually they're kind of celebrated. And there's a character that has like lots of different personalities living within her. And I remember talking to Gerard Way about it, and he told me about all the research he'd done for all the research he'd gone into with DID and some of the controversy about it, but also I just found that really interesting. So basically, what I'm saying is my only real understanding of DID is from a comic book. How accurate is Split?
Well, a lot of people within the DID community really hate it. I try to take a more weighted stance on it because if it weren't for this film, then people wouldn't know much about it. Like they would not even consider that that's possible because they do put scientific facts into it. They do show that there is a whole plethora of research being done on the topic. So that's one thing. Like it kind of shows that diagnosis exists. It's being researched. So that is at least one thing in the popular culture that helps the DID community. But on the other hand, it doesn't because obviously it shows such a skewed in such a skewed way the just one instance of a DID system that makes people think that that must be the case most of the time. So if you don't approach it with a feeling that that's what DID systems are always like, then that's good. Then that's kind of a bit informative. But yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of misunderstanding after this movie.
I mean, from is it genetic or is it trauma based?
Is trauma based always. It's been proven with the latest research that it can only be trauma based. There are a lot of factors that can contribute to it. By the way, now that you've mentioned BPD, that's another condition I'm diagnosed with, and it's very often concurrent to DID. I think it's around 85% of cases of DID have the concurrent BPD, but not the other way around, obviously. So BPD people don't have to have the DID. I think 4% of all the BPD diagnosed people have DID or something like that. I might be wrong with numbers, but the like it's around that.
Yeah, I
So
mean, BPD is all trauma as well, isn't it?
yeah, it's already kind of making a person sensitive to the world and the way people treat the person. And so if there is a certain trauma that exacerbates it, then yeah, eventually it might happen that that a person will develop DID. As my um, doctor said, that there should be a few factors making this condition develop. So it's psychological, sociological, and event based. So there should be trauma, but there's also the brain should already be sensitive to the events that cause DID. So yeah, it's trauma based.
Yeah, so I don't want to pry into trauma because that would be really inappropriate. But what I do wonder is, do you remember a time when you weren't wrestling these personalities?
When I was sorry.
Do you remember a time when you weren't wrestling these personalities?
Oh, yeah, it was my childhood. So before the trauma, um, and well, we basically what makes things a bit confusing sometimes is that we do have a shared childhood. We do have a shared family. We are one in a way, but then the ways parted, and we became very different two people. But yeah, so I do prefer to say I, not we, in most conversations, because I'm not really responsible for what she does. Um, but we are basically still one person because we still have the same background. And yeah,
It
the
must get
childhood
really
is the
it must get really confusing with things like, I mean, you just said I'm not responsible for what she does. I mean, how does that work with things like relationships or, I don't know, the law, for example? I mean, if Putin's guys were like
same.
came for you, is an argument, well, that wasn't me, that was her.
um, well, I don't think Russia is even discussable in this case, because in Russia, everything like mental health conditions don't exist in Russia. Autism doesn't exist in Russia for most cases. So that's something like that wouldn't really change
Yeah,
things in
yeah,
court.
yeah.
But I think in the developed world, yes, people actually do acknowledge that there are two different, like, or multiple different people who can be taking part in the decision making. Uh, well, as for um, life things, I'm still learning, first and foremost. I first went to therapy trying to figure out what was going on, not even knowing that I had DID. Was in the beginning of 2021, I think. And I did have suspicions that I have this condition, but that was way back when I was a teenager. I when we went through all of this with the therapist, it became pretty clear why all those things before. And then I was like, oh my God, I did realize that back then. The thing about DID is that you don't understand that you have it because it's designed to be protecting you from the trauma. And so, because it's designed to be separating parts of the brain from each other and being able to hide things in different places in the brain, that's literally what it is. Uh, because of that, people with DID sometimes don't understand that they have DID until they've tried to disentangle all this chaos in the head. So that was exactly what was going on with me. Uh, my head was a chaos. I was trying to understand what was going on and why all those life events were happening and why I was making those decisions. And at the beginning, when I took over the control, life wasn't even mine. So I was feeling I'm trapped in someone else's body. And it took me around um, a few months in therapy to understand what was going on, and I'm still learning. I'm still trying to read as much as possible to understand how it all works, and figure out why am I making this decision and that decision. And yes, there is a certain thing called passive influence. So it doesn't always have to be frequent switches. It doesn't always have to be like in the movie Split, or in the Split movie, or in the popular culture where you just switch like this, and what happened? Where am I? And that happens 20 times a day. No, it all depends on the setup within the system. Basically, it's I like to draw an analogy with a household. There could be so many combinations of people living within one house, and so many relationships between them. They might be friends, they might be hating each other. So there's all sorts of ways where they could be communicating between each other. I'm lucky, I have only two, and we are pretty much adequate. So we are not if both of us weren't uh, able to agree on something, then that would be a total chaos. We would probably be switching, just like fighting within our mind and body. But that's not the case. We have been able to agree on stuff, exactly like we began this conversation, that I'm wearing a mask. I'm not allowed to do some like certain things that would hurt her. For instance, I'm not allowed to get a tattoo done. She's against that. That's her body too. And even though I want to, I just can't. And so, um, sorry,
Well, no, no, it's fine. What about there's lots of, because I read you talk about neurodivergence, and I don't see OCD as neurodivergence. In my case, I see OCD as an illness. And but there are lots of conversations I have with people who've got ADHD or all sorts of conditions, and they talk about neurodivergence almost being like well, there is a view from some people that it's almost like a sort of a superpower, right? That it's almost like it shouldn't be considered an illness, or this is part. In fact, there was actually an article in the Guardian in Britain recently that I thought was interesting, but I wasn't sure whether I agreed with it. That was actually talking about how maybe ADHD should be viewed as an identity. And I guess what that kind of leads me to ask is that, in the case of me and OCD, like if I could be rid of it, I would be rid of it in a flash. Like I would do anything to be rid of it. There's nothing about it that I find beneficial. But with how you view your condition and with the treatment and such, like, do you view it as something that you would like to get rid of, or do you just accept that this is what you are?
I would definitely get rid of it. The reason is, so there is one thing that it benefits me greatly with. It's the experience and knowledge that I still possess somewhere in the head. Sometimes it's not exactly reachable, but uh, because I was part of this life still, even though I was somewhere there, um, there is a lot of experience that I might not have had otherwise. But at the same time, this is a risk to me because, like you said, there is a certain risk to relationships. It's really hard for me to sometimes find a common language with people because essentially, at the end of the day, I am way too different, and there's always things that I can't explain. It's hard for me to explain. So imagine like how I have to explain to people why I didn't really even exist for like almost 10 years, why I can't explain why there was no history of me before that, why I'm still psychologically at a level at an age of someone like 20-year-old, even though my physical body is 33. There are so many things that it's hard for me to explain, and that's why it's hard to
Yeah.
fit in. But at the
How have
same time,
how
sorry.
have you how have your loved ones, your family or what have you, how have they dealt with this?
Oh, well, my family calls this. So,
Right.
well,
Right.
the part of my family, which is my parents, that's what it basically is stemming from. The other family that she had is not exactly my family. It's very, very confusing. But again, it took a lot of time and therapy to understand how it works and help explain it to people. So I was trying my best to make sure that like there's as little hurt coming from this to other people than there could be. And as for my parents, like my parent who caused this, um, I still can't explain it because there will be no understanding.
Do you know what? I knew this conversation was going to be complicated, uh, but I went out last night. I went to my friend is I got a friend who's like a he's quite a famous paranormal investigator in the UK, and he's doing a tour at the moment. So me and my wife we went out to see him do his tour, and it was quite a late night, and I'm really regretting it right now because I'm thinking, I this is complicated. Um, how does I mean, I guess that again, my only sort of real comparison that I can make is my OCD, and my OCD has made my working life very difficult at times. But it sounds like you professionally are very successful. How has this? I would imagine that would be very difficult when you are dealing with this.
You, yeah, you can't imagine, honestly. So the thing is that my other self is is very much against what I'm doing. So basically, she had her life taken away from her. She wanted as much as possible to make me live her life, and I couldn't. She is an investment banker with top tier education from the UK. She went all the way up the career ladder. She worked on Wall Street. And then
See,
all of a sudden,
I'm getting confused now. I can't work out who I'm speaking to.
you're speaking to me. Why? To the musician one. Don't worry.
Got you, got you.
She's not coming here.
I mean, she must share your. You must benefit from her wage, though, right?
I quit her job. There was well, I protested against the war. The place where she worked was a state bank. They didn't like this. So I said, sorry, but there's no other way. And the other thing that was bothering me deeply is how certain people, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but um, certain people were reacting to the war as a means of getting profit. And that pissed me off so much that I couldn't just like even, I couldn't bear it. I just, at first, I just stopped doing anything altogether. And then I said, no, yeah, I'm just gonna go on with my protest activities, and um, we gotta part ways. She was as against it as she could possibly be. We had like I was literally out of like normal life for a week. People who were around me, they remember that time. I was not approachable. I couldn't even talk much. I was uh just there was a huge thunder in my head, and it was like a clash because I did everything that she didn't want me to do. And one of the things that we need to make sure that we don't burn bridges, but I didn't have a choice there. So the thing is that she might want to come back. Not might, it probably is inevitable. At some point, she will take back control and she will want to reinstate her career and go on with it. But I kind of damaged it.
What happens? I mean, I presume your musical identity, you perform, right?
Yes.
Would it be possible for her to gate crash you performing?
Yeah.
Has that ever happened?
No. I'm really hoping that we can agree on this never happening.
So when you say like you would like to agree, how does that process work? Do you have a conversation in your
We
head?
talk. Yeah, we talk.
But when you do that, like, is there a? I mean, it's obviously not like a physical manifestation. So what does that look like?
It looks as if I am, I don't know. I haven't never seen myself outside of, from
Yeah,
outside what it looks like. But as far as I was told, I just look confused. I look that I'm not like as if I'm not here because I'm literally not here, and I'm just I'm just loony in a way.
right.
But even I when I remember those times, those episodes when I'm being interfered with, uh, I can't remember the day. So it just the day is a whole like blur. I don't remember what I did, what I wore, what I was. I don't know, just where I was. So it's not very nice. But the thing is that well, she only does that when she's angry at me. Otherwise, I don't know what's the point of having conversations with me. I guess we don't really have much to talk about either. Um, we're
I,
dramatically different. Like there's no common ground whatsoever. Um, like there's all sorts of different ways where she is like this and I like that.
Something I've always been interested in is I just remembered another DID contribution to pop culture. There's a Marvel show called Moon Knight. Do you know that show?
No, sorry.
Yeah, that's a similar thing that there are two people. I mean, they sort of add like a bit of a supernatural element to it, but the idea is that there's two people living within the same body, and then it was interesting how they'd done it, like because it's a comic book, but it got adapted as a TV series on Disney Plus, and it was interesting how they did it. Like the comic is a little bit more like a little bit more of a sort of somber depiction of the condition, whereas the TV show kind of turns it up a bit. But it was quite moving in places. The confusion that the titular character demonstrates with the condition. Anyway, what I say all this to say that one of the things that I found really interesting is that what the life of the other identity looks like when they're not present. So what's it like when she takes over? Like, where do you go?
So basically, I explain it in a way where imagine you're in a car and someone else is driving and you have the access to all what they see, but you can't do anything. You're not making any decisions. You're just an observer. So that's how it is. There is no room or anything. There's no physical uh, like space there where I exist. I can see things, but I can't do things. I can whisper in a way, like this is what passive influence is like. I can uh, kind of try to influence what she's doing. She's much stronger than I am by character, so I'm like, there's a huge also difference. She is stronger. She is the one. She's the so-called protector. She was placed there so that I could be protected from the world, and sh- so I could see everything that she did. But once tables turned and I took control, I couldn't really drive because the things, not literally, but there were like, by the way, that's an interesting thing. Driving is a physical thing, so you can actually remember how to do things because it's mechanical memory. Whereas certain things that she did, I was finding it extremely hard to do because my brain was not built for it. Uh, Trading is that very example. All those formulas, all those uh, things that she did, I felt so damn stupid. So I have a master's, she has, but like I am the person who has a master's degree in finance. I can't do anything. Uh, I do remember things that were supposed to be done because I've seen that like on a TV, but I don't have the skill, the mind to be to the brain to be able to process that. And so the first few months were absolute madness at work. People did notice that something was clearly off with me. Something was absolutely wrong. One of the employees just got like knocked off from off the grid and just can't do much. I mean, I could still talk. I was really good at it, and I'm still good at talking, as you can see. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could communicate things. I could be just like jumping on those jobs of um, communicating. But when it came to actual analysis, research, and things, I was struggling with it really badly. So that's one of the ways. Yeah, but at the same time, for years, I was watching a movie with a lot of knowledge and expertise built in, like a huge YouTube tutorial on how to do business, for instance. So that does benefit me a lot. So there is certain expertise that it is in my brain thanks to that. But yeah, it is how it is, the way it is.
How does this work with music then? So, I, do you feel like this? Do you feel like your condition helps or hinders your musical creativity?
Uh, well, there is one way where it hindered my creativity because there was no creativity for years. I had to jumpstart everything from day one because the very day where I came into control, I started doing music straight away. I didn't even try. It just was like going through me nonstop. I just started writing. Uh, I started with verses and then I started humming and all of that. It was also such a dramatic difference. People around me were like, what is going on? The thing is that my other self doesn't like music. She's not a fan. It's not her hobby. It's nothing to her. It just, for her, for years, music didn't exist. She is completely the opposite of a creative person. She actually even made fun of all the creative people she ever knew. Like, oh, they're so like lousy and they don't understand things, like, and all of that. They're like, the way I am. That's the funny thing. I'm like, I can't even, I tend to lose things. I tend to be very, very odd financially, as in I can't figure out things like when it comes to paying bills and stuff, and I get fooled a lot. So and that is like with the presence of the other person in my head who is super pro in finance. And so she didn't have music in her life whatsoever. So I had to jumpstart immediately because I felt that that's what I need to do. That's the only thing I'm good for. That's the only thing I care about. people around her, her friends, I had nothing to talk to them about. I didn't share any interests with them. They didn't like music, and so and that's one thing that hindered my musical creativity and things. But at the same time, what's interesting is that for years, this part of my head has been storing so much material that was never used and never supposed to be used. There's two things to creativity that like I enjoy doing. It's not only music but also the visuals and
Yeah,
horror art,
yeah,
and that's also I don't have to like even force anything. It's just pours and pours and pours, at least for now, because there's so many ideas that I stored and I had and I never used before. So I'm just this morning at 5 a.m., I woke up and I went to a field to make visuals for one of the tracks on the EP. I was like with my white contacts and black hands and
yeah.
dancing in the field and everything. That's how it works with me. I just can't stop it. It's crazy.
So the record, the EP's out in, is it November 17th?
Yes.
Yeah, good skills from me there. Um, I think the songs are really strong and frightening. As I say, that's the thing about your music that appeals so much to me. Are you gonna be able to get to the UK and perform?
Totally. We organized a UK tour. There is so far 3 dates. Manchester on November 18, London on November 24, and Oslo Twistle on December 1. And there's also one date, a festival in Cambridgeshire. It's on, now I'm being tested, November 25 or 26, 26.
Well, I will almost certainly make that London show.
That would be beautiful.
I am perhaps more curious and intrigued by what you do now than I was on the way into this conversation. So, I uh, I may well I may well let these thoughts marinate a little bit, and then ask you some more when I come and see you play, because there's definitely a lot of my neurons are firing right now. There's lots of things that you've made me think about. Thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
wish
you.
you the best with everything.
Thank you so much. Best of luck to you too.
Thank you. I'll speak to you again. Take care. Bye.